Hello, welcome to Living and Learning. I'm Allison Kinnear, and every Wednesday at 3 o'clock Pacific time, I hop onto Facebook Live and give you a little talk about living and learning. This month, we are focusing on developing healthy coping mechanisms in the time of COVID 19. It's definitely what everyone's encountering our whole lives, not just as a state or as a nation, but globally, our whole lives have been changed radically and quickly. And we are all at different stages of processing that. And this month is going to be giving you lots of tools around how to deal with that, how to transform, how to move through this time period and be better off in the end. Last week we talked about anxiety. This week we are going to talk about radical acceptance, and I will get to what that is in a moment. But first, all to say, this situation, it was like a ticket to a ride that no one wanted to go on. None of us signed up for this. None of us wanted this, and yet we're all on the same ride. And the and this ride is uncertain. We don't know what twists and turns it's going to take us on, and it's unsettling. And some of us may have the resources and the equipment to kind of manage being on that ride better than others. But my hope is to give you some tools and some support so that you can feel a little more like secure as we ride this roller coaster, really. So one of the things that happens, so when we find ourselves on these rides that we did not sign up for, the COVID-19 ride, what can happen is we mentally and emotionally can cope with that in a wide variety of ways. And you see it all the time on social media. I see it in the amongst my friends and the text groups and things that I'm on, that we can all be at different stages. So you can be at the stage where you're waking up first thing in the morning, still expecting life to be like how it normally is, and then realizing like, oh, that's right, we're still in the middle of this pandemic. Some of you may be experiencing difficult news. I know in Washington State, we just received news this week that schools were no longer going to reopen for the rest of the school year. So we can hit these dips, this new information that can hit us in striking ways that we don't exactly like or want. Your business maybe is not where it was, and maybe you're seeing loss in revenue. There's all these impacts. There's all these things that are coming at us that are unpleasant. The word that keeps coming to my mind is confronting. It's like this pandemic is confronting. It puts a bright light on what is happening in your life. It puts a bright light on parenting. It puts a bright light on your job. It puts a bright light on your values and what's important to you. It puts a bright light on finances. It's like fluorescent lighting and a magnifying mirror. It can be harsh to look at. And so we create all these coping mechanisms to deal with that. And some of the ones that I've seen, there's some healthy ones. It's like, oh, I'm baking more, I'm playing with my friends more, I'm gardening more, I'm getting more creative, I'm diving into my side hustle to see if I can make something of it. Right. So there's those ways of kind of coping and managing. And then there's other ways that, if left to one time or a couple of times, it's actually not even about the times, but like what I'm also seeing is a lot of numbing behavior. So the numbing behavior, there's like behavior that fills you up, that re-energizes you. And then there's numbing behavior that kind of checks you out. And that doesn't mean one's right and one's wrong. That's not what that means. It just means to have awareness that some activities can be more positively transformative and other activities can be more numbing. And so what I've seen is a lot more drinking, a lot more cookies or eating, a lot more binge watching of things. And sometimes we need that. Sometimes we need that kind of tuning out time. It's like, I can't even handle it right now. And oh, look at video bomb. Honey, I'm live right now. Go find daddy. Working while parenting. I can't talk to you, buddy. I'm live. Do you want to say hi? Yeah, people are watching right now. You want to say hi?
Are you going to put this on YouTube?
It's already on, bud.
It's already on YouTube?
Not YouTube, but Facebook, yes. I'm going to go back to talking.
Can you put it on YouTube?
I will try to put it on YouTube. Apparently, I need to put it on YouTube. Goodness sake. So, all to say that those coping mechanisms, those more numbing coping mechanisms, what they do is they can kind of like take you out of that harsh reality, right? Like that bright light, that magnifying mirror, and displace you for a bit. And what's great about that is like sometimes we need that relief, we need that alleviation, so that we can just kind of be. But then what can happen is, and I know this happened to me a lot in the beginning, I would watch a movie, and then as soon as that movie ended, I would be like, oh, that's right, I'm back to this. So we can kind of, that numbing behavior, once it stops, then we're confronted once again with the bright light and the big mirror. So we want to, instead of just continuing to tune out and kind of turn an eye to the realities that are there, we want to instead turn toward. Because when we can turn toward that, the reality, when we can turn toward the bright lights and the big mirror and all the things that we're feeling confronted by, then our eyes adjust, our strategies adjust. Okay, well, what can I do? How can I turn the light down so it's not so bright? How can I step back from this mirror? How can I see it from a different point of view? How can I plan? How can I strategize? How can I change things? You know, I can't change the situation, but what can I do? Instead of feeling like at the mercy of like, oh, I have to deal with this, it's rather like, how can I deal with this? And how can I deal with this in a way that makes me better on the other side? So one of the things that can be really helpful in that process is radical acceptance. Radical acceptance, meaning that there is a full and complete acceptance of the situation. A full and complete acceptance of the situation, a full and complete acceptance of this is our reality. I don't know when it's going to end. I have to hunker down for a couple of months, probably, if not longer. A complete and total acceptance of the financial situation, a complete and total acceptance of children bombing you in your work, interrupting you in your work, a complete and total acceptance of this. It's like what I usually say is a radical acceptance of what is. This is very different. This is not the same as I like it. No. I'm not saying you have to radically like your situation. Not at all. You don't have to like it. You don't have to want it. You don't have to desire it. Not suggesting that at all. Rather, it's accepting the reality. It's just like acknowledging it, that it's there, not puffing it up and catastrophizing it, not shrinking it down and minimizing it, but rather accepting it. Accepting that the relationships with the people who you are now cohabitating with are what they are. It's having a radical acceptance of the people of, if you live alone, that you live alone. And it's just a radical acknowledgement of that. The radical acknowledgement and acceptance of working from home while trying to parent. All of those things. It's just acknowledging. Now, what's interesting is that once we do that, then it will often elicit a lot of emotion. When you can fully recognize, accept, acknowledge the reality of it, there's likely going to be some pain. It's like looking at that bright light and that big mirror and like actually looking at it. It can be startling. And so the reason why we don't turn toward it is because that is really uncomfortable and we don't want to do that. But that's the work that's being asked of us. Just like with anything, right? If you're talking about race relations, if you're talking about, sexism, ageism, ableism, if you're talking about any of those things, we all have to turn toward the light and have, a come to Jesus moment, so to speak. We have to have that acknowledgement. We cannot move past, we cannot move toward healing until we acknowledge, until there's acceptance, until there's looking at that bright light and being in the discomfort. That does not mean accepting all the responsibility and piling on our shame. I'm not suggesting that. This is not a time to pile on more shame. And it is not a time to silver line everything, but rather it's just to create a holy and sacred acceptance and acknowledgement of what is. And then to allow yourself to feel the feelings and the emotions that come through that acceptance and that acknowledgement. And let me tell you, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be too hard, but rather it's going to be uncomfortable. And you might be like, oh my gosh, if I let myself cry about this, I'm going to cry for days. And you might. I spent 2.5 days of that. But that doesn't mean you're going to cry forever. And it doesn't mean you're going to feel lost forever. And it doesn't mean you're going to be in despair forever. Rather, what you're doing is you're allowing all those trapped emotions that you're trying to distract yourself away from to come through, to feel expressed, to allow them to be. And that's when the joy can come through. But you can't get to the joy until you feel those feelings, until you allow those feelings. And you cannot allow those feelings until you have some acceptance of what is. So if you want to get to joy, if you want to get to more gratitude, if you want to get to possibility, if you want to get to planning and strategizing, not from a panicky place, but from a centered and more wise place, then there has to be acknowledgement and there has to be feeling. And I'm going to stop right there. And let's see, Christy, hello. Yes, the moment you wake up. Yep, I know that one well. Charlene, acceptance of situation combined with Richard's manifestation reminder yesterday. I will survive and thrive again. I love it. Yes, Richard Seaman, who's the head of Seattle Life Coach Training, did a whole thing on manifestation yesterday. So absolutely, that's a message that we can remind ourselves through the midst of feeling is I will survive and thrive again. So I'm going to pause here because I want to offer more to you. If these videos are helpful, if you find yourself tuning into these every week, if you find yourself, maybe you don't tune into them every week, but when you do tune in, you feel better, you feel lighter, you feel more focused in your life, then I want to offer you the experience of continuing. I have created a VIP pass for all my living and learnings. Basically, after I wrap up with Facebook Live, I record more tips and I have those available on the same topic. And so as long as I'm recording living and learnings, which I've been doing for about 2 years now, you're going to get even more tips and more support, more tools that I can offer you. It's only $5 a month. And this is a way that it sustains me in my work. And also, I hope, is a way that sustains you in your life. So if that speaks to you, I'll put a link in the comments about how you can get your $5 a month living and learning VIP pass. And what happens in that is you're basically getting 4 weeks of extra tools for those $5. Can't beat it. And this is just my starting point now. I don't know where it's going to go, but I wanted to offer something more to all of you, particularly in this time. So I will leave you with that. I wish you a full week of living and learning and radical acceptance and feeling. And I will see you next week. Take care. Bye.